My name is Natalie Green, and at 31 years old, I thought I understood betrayal. I thought I'd seen the worst of human selfishness. But nothing, and I mean nothing, could have prepared me for the day my own mother stole everything I had spent my life building. It wasn't just money, it was trust. I had spent 12 years saving every extra cent, scraping together $120,000 to finally buy my first home. I dreamed about that house like other people dream about weddings. My Pinterest boards were full of floor plans, backyard gardens, and paint palettes. I wanted stability, a place that was mine. Then one morning, I logged into my bank account and felt my stomach drop. My savings balance, every hard-earned dollar, was gone, zero. My credit card was maxed out. My emergency fund drained. I thought it was a glitch at first. I refreshed the page over and over, praying I was wrong, but I wasn't. And on my kitchen table, sitting beside a half-empty cup of coffee, was a note. My mother's handwriting, looping and elegant as ever. Amanda needed it more than you. She's family. Don't be selfish. Amanda, my younger sister. 21 years old, irresponsible, and spoiled beyond repair. That note was the spark that burned away every illusion I'd ever had about love, loyalty, and family. Before I tell you how I turned that betrayal into the biggest comeback of my life, make sure to subscribe and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Because you'll want to hear what happened when the police knocked on my mother's door. I grew up in a cramped 2-bedroom house in Cambridge, Massachusetts, with peeling blue paint and the faint smell of oil that clung to my dad's mechanic uniforms. My parents weren't rich, but they worked hard, or at least my dad did. He was a quiet man named Henry Green, grease under his fingernails, tired eyes, and the kind of person who believed in fixing things instead of replacing them. My mom, Margaret, was the opposite. She loved appearances, polished nails, perfect hair, neighbors' approval. To her, image was survival. For the first 12 years of my life, things were normal, tight but stable. Until the night my father sat us down at the dinner table, me, Mom, and a plate of overcooked meatloaf, and said he was leaving. He had met someone else. Mom's reaction was nuclear. She threw her wine glass against the wall. She called him every name imaginable. I remember sitting frozen as he quietly packed his duffel bag. That was the last normal night we ever had. After Dad left, everything in the house changed. Mom became cold, like all the warmth had been burned out of her. She got a job as a receptionist at a dental clinic, dressing up every day like she was auditioning for a role she couldn't quite play. She started dating immediately, a parade of men, none of whom lasted long. When I was 13, she got pregnant. The father, a truck driver named Ray, disappeared by the time my baby sister Amanda was born. He still paid child support, but that was the only trace of him left. From the moment Amanda entered the world, I knew my place in the Green family had shifted forever. Mom doted on her endlessly. Baby Amanda had everything: new clothes, expensive toys, professional photos every 3 months. I, on the other hand, became the help, the invisible one. I learned to make formula, change diapers, and hush a crying baby while Mom watched her soaps and painted her nails. By the time I was 16, I had a part-time job stocking shelves at the grocery store down the street. Every dollar I made went toward my own future. College, savings, anything to get out of that house. Mom never asked where my money went. She didn't care, as long as I didn't need hers. College was hard. I didn't have scholarships or family support, so I worked every job I could find: dishwasher, tutor, barista. I slept 4 hours a night, but I was determined. I studied finance of all things. I guess part of me wanted to understand why money made people do such cruel, irrational things. By the time I graduated, I was 22 and broke, but free. I found a job at a small financial planning firm in downtown Boston. The salary wasn't great, but I made it work. I lived with roommates, took public transport, and saved every month without fail. I built spreadsheets that tracked every expense, every goal. At 23, I had $10,000 in savings. At 27, it was $75,000. By 30, I hit $120,000. Every number represented a sacrifice. Birthdays skipped, vacations declined, meals replaced with instant noodles. I was proud of it. That money was going to buy my home, my safety, my independence. Meanwhile, Amanda had grown into the exact opposite. She was spoiled, entitled. The kind of person who posted selfies in designer clothes she couldn't afford. She'd barely scraped through high school and lasted one semester in college. Before announcing she wanted to be a social media influencer, Mom thought it was brilliant. "She's talented, Natalie," she told me. "You don't understand how the world works now. People make millions online." I bit my tongue and stayed out of it. But within months, Amanda had turned Mom's house into a makeshift studio. Ring lights, cameras, piles of clothes from fast fashion sites she couldn't pronounce. She posted constantly, posing with lattes, doing fake brand collabs, pretending to live a lifestyle she couldn't afford. When the credit card bills started arriving, she came to me. "Just $500, she begged. "It's an investment in my career." I gave her the money, though I knew it was a mistake. Then came another request. $1,000 for a collaboration trip to Miami, then $2,000 for a new camera. The requests piled up. Each one came with a promise to pay me back, but of course she never did. When I finally refused to give her more, she turned cold. "You're just jealous," she sneered. "You're miserable and boring. I'm doing something with my life." Within hours, Mom called me, furious. "How could you refuse your sister? She's trying to build something. You have plenty." I hung up before I said something I couldn't take back. That was the start of the divide that would shatter everything. The night of the final blowout, Mom cooked Amanda's favorite dinner, roast with mashed potatoes. She said it was family time, but I could feel the tension thick as fog. Halfway through the meal, Amanda broke down in tears. "I can't do it anymore," she sobbed. "I'm in debt, $50,000 in credit cards. They're threatening to sue me." Mom clutched her hand, whispering reassurances, while I sat in stunned silence. Then Mom turned to me. "You can fix this, Natalie. You have the savings. Help your sister." I nearly choked on my water. "You want me to what?" "You have $120,000, she said calmly. "Pay off her debt. She'll pay you back over time. You know how to set up a payment plan." Amanda stopped crying. Her face, hopeful, expectant, told me this plan wasn't new. They had discussed it, planned it. I felt something inside me snap. "Absolutely not," I said coldly. "You want me to reward her for maxing out 12 credit cards? No. I worked for that money. I won't give it away." Mom's voice hardened. "Family takes care of family." "No," I said quietly. "Responsible people take care of themselves." The look she gave me in that moment, icy, calculating, still chills me. "You'll regret this," she said. I should have listened to the warning in her tone, because she meant it. 2 weeks passed after that dinner, and the silence from my family was deafening. No phone calls, no texts. Not even one of Mom's passive-aggressive guilt messages about how I was breaking the family apart. It was almost peaceful. Almost. But beneath the quiet, I felt something brewing, something dark. I knew my mother well enough to recognize that when she went silent, it wasn't because she was giving up. It was because she was planning. Still, I pushed the unease aside and focused on work. My job as a financial advisor had always been my safe space, the one place where logic and numbers made sense. I took on new clients, buried myself in spreadsheets, and convinced myself that Mom's threat had been nothing more than emotional manipulation. Then, 3 weeks later, I got the first call. It was from my bank. "Miss Green," said the polite woman on the other end, "we received a request last week to change your mailing address to an apartment complex in Quincy. We just wanted to verify if you'd made that request." I frowned. "No, I haven't changed my address." There was a short pause, then her tone turned cautious. "All right, we flagged your account for potential fraud. Thank you for confirming." I hung up, heart pounding. The next day, I received another call, this time from my credit card company. Someone had attempted to access my online account, but failed the security verification questions. They'd also tried to open a new line of credit in my name. That's when I knew this wasn't random. This was targeted. And deep down, I knew exactly who was behind it. That night, I changed all my passwords, bank accounts, emails, even my Netflix login. I set up 2-factor authentication and called all 3 credit bureaus to freeze my reports. For days, my stomach twisted every time my phone buzzed. I half expected another call from a company telling me someone had tried to impersonate me again. But then came a different kind of message, a text from Mom. "Bernie, it's been too long. Come for dinner tomorrow night. I'm making your favorite, pot roast. It was so normal, so pleasant. It should have been reassuring. Instead, it terrified me. Mom hadn't called me sweetheart or invited me over warmly since I was a child. The tone was all wrong, sugary, artificial. Part of me wanted to refuse, to keep my distance and let her stew in her own silence. But another part, the part that had spent years craving her approval, whispered, "Go, see what she wants." Against my better judgment, I texted back, "I'll be there." When I arrived at the old house the next evening, everything looked almost exactly as it had when I was a teenager, except cleaner, more carefully arranged, as if she'd been expecting company. The faint smell of rosemary and garlic filled the air. Mom greeted me at the door with a warm smile and an embrace that felt wrong, too rehearsed. "It's so good to see you, honey," she said. She'd called me honey. She never called me that. "Where's Amanda?" I asked. "Oh, out with friends," she replied smoothly. I thought it would be nice for just the two of us. Just the two of us. Those words echoed in my head. We had never once in my entire life had a dinner like that. Still, I followed her into the dining room. The table was set with her best dishes, the fine china she usually reserved for Christmas. A bottle of red wine was already open on the counter, breathing beside 2 glasses. "You look tired," she said as she poured me a glass, her tone light and conversational. "Work keeping you busy?" I nodded. "Yeah, things have been hectic." We made small talk, about work, about the weather, about some new restaurant that opened downtown. She laughed in all the right places, asked about my coworkers, even complimented my haircut. It was unsettling, like having dinner with an actress pretending to be my mother. When she served dessert, she refilled my wine glass without asking. "One more won't hurt," she said, her smile gentle. "You never let yourself relax anymore." I hesitated, then took a sip. The second glass tasted stronger. By the time we finished dessert, my head felt heavy. The room was warmer than before, or maybe I was. My thoughts started to fog. "I think I should go," I said, pushing my chair back. "I've got work early tomorrow." "Nonsense," Mom said. "You look exhausted. Why don't you lie down for a while before you drive?" I tried to argue, but my tongue felt thick, clumsy. My vision blurred at the edges. "Mom, She guided me gently toward the couch. "Just close your eyes, sweetheart. Rest a little." The last thing I remember was her tucking a blanket over me, her hand brushing my hair, then darkness. When I woke up, the room was gray with early morning light. My head throbbed, my mouth was dry. For a moment, I didn't remember where I was. Then I saw the old floral curtains, the family photos on the wall, Mom's house. I sat up slowly. The blanket slipped off my shoulders. My body felt heavy, sluggish, like I'd slept for a century. On the coffee table sat an empty wine bottle and my purse, unzipped. A chill ran down my spine. I reached for it and rifled through the contents. My wallet was there, my keys, my phone. But something was off. My debit card was missing. So was the small notebook I kept in the inside pocket, the one with all my financial notes and account details. My breath caught. I lunged for my phone and opened my banking app. The numbers blurred together for a moment, then focused. Account balance, 0.00. I froze, refreshed the page. Again. The number didn't change. My checking account, my savings, my emergency fund. Every account was empty. And my credit card, the one I never used except for travel, had a balance of $1,700. It didn't make sense. I hadn't even had enough credit for that. My hands shook as I dialed my bank's customer service line. The representative confirmed my worst fear. Multiple transfers had been made over the past 12 hours. My entire savings had been wired to an account under a familiar name. Margaret Green. I dropped the phone. My pulse roared in my ears. How? How could she? I checked my text messages. Nothing. No calls, no notes, no apologies, just silence. Then I saw it. A folded piece of paper sitting neatly on the kitchen counter. My mother's handwriting, elegant and deliberate. "You'll understand someday. Amanda deserved it more than you. Don't call the police. A family should handle things privately." I stood there for what felt like forever. staring at that note as my world collapsed around me. I wanted to scream, cry, break something, but nothing came out. My throat felt raw, my chest hollow. The woman who raised me, who taught me to say please and thank you, who once told me family meant everything, had drugged me, stolen my life savings, and left me a note like I was some selfish villain in her story. It wasn't about money anymore. It was about betrayal. And I promised myself, right then and there, that I would make her regret it, not through rage, not through violence, through something far worse. The one thing I'd learned better than anyone: financial strategy. If she wanted to play with money, she'd picked the wrong opponent. The first thing I did after discovering the theft was sit in my car, parked across the street from my mother's house, with shaking hands and a heart that wouldn't slow down. Anger would have been easier, tears too. But what I felt was something sharper, cold, controlled. I wasn't the same obedient daughter who used to cry in her room after every argument. I was 31 years old, a financial professional. I understood systems, how they could destroy people or protect them. And this time, I was going to make the system work for me. Step 1. Documentation. I started by gathering everything I could: screenshots of my empty accounts, bank statements from the past month, the transaction trail showing every transfer into my mother's name. I printed everything and stored it in a folder marked fraud case. My fingers trembled as I highlighted the timestamp on the largest transfer, 1:43 a.m. The same time I'd been passed out on her couch, the realization made bile rise in my throat. She hadn't just stolen from me, she had drugged me to do it. I called the police that afternoon. The officer who answered listened quietly as I explained everything: the missing funds, the note, my suspicion that my mother had used my banking details while I was unconscious. He asked if I had proof she had drugged me. I didn't. Just a pounding headache and an empty bank account. He sighed. Without medical evidence, that part's hard to prove. But the theft? That's a crime. You've got solid documentation. You should file a report. I hesitated for half a second. This was my mother, the woman who had raised me, who had taught me to tie my shoes and pack a lunch. But then I thought of her handwriting on that note. Amanda deserved it more than you. And I said, yes, I want to file. Step 2. The investigation. The report triggered an investigation. The detective assigned to my case, a no-nonsense woman named Detective Alvarez, called me 2 days later. She was professional, but I caught a trace of disbelief in her voice when I explained who the suspect was. Your own mother? She asked carefully. Yes, I said flatly, and my sister helped her. Alvarez didn't judge. We'll need to trace the transfers and verify the account ownership. If it's in her name, this won't take long. And she was right. Within 72 hours, they confirmed that the receiving account belonged to Margaret Green. But that wasn't even the best part. While reviewing the transfer details, Alvarez noticed something unusual. The transaction had been authorized using my phone's online banking app. That meant whoever did it had used my Face ID while I was unconscious. The wine, the dizziness. She hadn't just drugged me, she'd unlocked my phone and approved the transactions using my own biometric data. That was the smoking gun. Alvarez's tone hardened after that. This is felony-level theft and fraud. We're proceeding. Step 3. The confrontation. The police didn't tell my mother when the investigation began, but I did. It was a Saturday morning when I decided to confront her. The sun was shining, the air crisp. I remember that detail clearly because it felt obscene, that the world could look so peaceful while mine had been set on fire. When she opened the door, she smiled like nothing had happened. Natalie, I was just about to call you. I wanted to explain. I cut her off. You stole $120,000 from me. Her expression didn't even flicker. I borrowed it. You have a good job, honey. Amanda doesn't. She needed help. You drugged me, I snapped. You used my Face ID to access my accounts. That's not borrowing, that's a crime. Her composure slipped for just a moment. A flash of panic in her eyes before she smoothed it over with a condescending smile. You're overreacting. Family doesn't sue family. You stopped being my family the second you treated me like an ATM. That hit her. Hard. Her voice rose. After everything I've done for you. You're lucky I raised you after your father abandoned us. I laughed bitterly. Raised me? You mean neglected me while spoiling Amanda? You didn't raise me, Mom. I raised myself. For the first time, she looked small, like the weight of her own lies was finally pressing down. But then she straightened her shoulders. You won't do it, she said confidently. You won't call the police. You're too proud of your reputation. What would people think if they knew your mother was a thief? I took a step closer. I already called them. Her face drained of color. The silence that followed was so heavy I could hear her breathing, sharp and shallow. You didn't, she whispered. Oh, I did. And they'll be here soon? I turned and walked away as she screamed after me, her words dissolving into shrill, incoherent fury. Step 4. Fallout. 2 weeks later, the police arrived with a warrant. It wasn't dramatic. No sirens, no shouting. Just 2 officers walking calmly up her driveway, while the neighbors pretended not to watch from behind their curtains. They escorted her out in handcuffs. Amanda stood frozen on the porch, crying and begging them to stop. Mom's eyes found mine across the street as they put her in the car. For once, there was no anger in them, just disbelief. As if she truly couldn't comprehend that the daughter she'd betrayed would actually hold her accountable. That was the moment I realized something important. People like her don't feel guilt. They feel shock when their power stops working. The court process was long, agonizing even. Her lawyer tried to argue that she had parental authority over my finances, a ridiculous claim the judge dismissed immediately. The prosecution presented the evidence, the transfers, the timing, the biometric data, and the note she'd left behind. Amanda testified reluctantly that she hadn't known about the drugging, but under questioning, she admitted she'd known about the plan to take the money. When the verdict came, it was swift and clear, guilty on all counts. She was sentenced to 3 years in prison, with restitution to be paid in full. I didn't attend sentencing day. I didn't need to. Some victories don't require you to watch the fall. You just have to know it happened. Step 5. Rebuilding after the trial, I found myself strangely hollow. I had justice. But justice doesn't refill your bank account or heal the kind of wound that runs through your bloodline. I couldn't stand the thought of returning to my old apartment. Every corner reminded me of spreadsheets, savings goals, and the future I'd planned that no longer existed. So I did something impulsive. I left Boston. I packed what was left of my life into my car and drove north until the city skyline disappeared behind the trees. I ended up in a small coastal town in Maine, quiet, peaceful, and anonymous. I rented a tiny cottage with peeling paint and a view of the sea. It wasn't mine, not yet. But for the first time, the air felt clean. I rebuilt from scratch. I started a remote consulting business, helping people manage their finances. Ironically, most of my clients were women trying to protect their assets from toxic family members or partners. I taught them how to secure their accounts, set boundaries, and build independence. And I told them, though never by name, about a friend who learned those lessons the hard way. Within a year, I had recovered half my savings. But what I gained in peace of mind was worth far more. Step 6. The last visit. A year and a half after the trial, I got a letter from the Massachusetts Department of Corrections. It was from her. At first, I almost threw it away unopened, but curiosity won. Inside was a single sheet of paper. Her handwriting was still elegant, but shakier than I remembered. Natalie, I've had time to think about everything. I told myself I did what I did for your sister, but the truth is uglier. I couldn't stand watching you succeed without me. You remind me of your father, strong, independent, stubborn. I hated him for leaving me, and I hated you for surviving it. I don't expect forgiveness. I just want you to know that I see it now. You didn't ruin this family. I did, Mom. I read the letter 3 times. Then I folded it carefully, walked down to the edge of the water, and set it on fire. The paper curled, blackened, and disappeared in the wind. Forgiveness wasn't something she'd earned. But I realized then that forgiveness wasn't for her. It was for me. Letting go didn't mean forgetting. It meant reclaiming power. Step 7. Full circle. 2 years later, I bought my house. Not the big city condo I'd once dreamed of, but a small, weathered seaside cottage with creaky floors and salt-stained windows. I paid for it in cash, my own money, rebuilt through honest work and relentless discipline. On the day I signed the papers, I stood in the empty living room and listened to the ocean through the open windows. For the first time in my life, I wasn't afraid someone could take something from me. Not my money, not my peace, not my worth. That night, I opened a bottle of wine, one I poured myself, and toasted to new beginnings, to independence, to justice, to self-respect. And maybe, quietly, to the little girl I used to be, the one who kept saving when no one believed in her. Sometimes revenge isn't fire or fury. It's silence. It's success. It's peace. Because there's nothing more satisfying than thriving in the ruins someone else tried to bury you in. And as I watched the sunset fade across the horizon, I whispered to myself, almost smiling, "You were right, Mom. Amanda deserved my money more than me, because I deserved something better.